All right, welcome to Life Extension Live. I'm Dr. Mike, and I'm here with my co-host, Dr. Crystal Gossert. And today we're going to be talking about brain fog. Do you know what I'm talking about? You
Oh,
know?
I know what you're talking about. I am very aware of moments where I've experienced brain fog.
Yeah, this kind of, and we're going to get into what that really means and how we define it. But at the end of the day, it's important to maintain clear thinking, mental energy, sharpness, right? These are those words right there we associate, with a vibrant long life, right? And so
Absolutely.
a lot of us, because, we could talk about the pandemic and all, whatever. At the end of the
Hmm.
day, pandemic or not, people are stressed, people are working harder, family life, all of that put together, the sharpness, the mental energy gets a little fuzzy, a little foggy.
Walking
And
in the
so
clouds.
that's what we're going to talk about today. So I just kind of want to, when we start something like this, I always like to hear Dr. Crystal's just her high level definition of these kind of things. So brain fog, like just what does that mean to you?
Well, I think you really described it. There's not much more to add. It's the fuzzy feeling, the clouding feeling. There is no medical, I guess, a formal medical definition. Brain fog is not a disease. It's not a disorder, but it's an unofficial term to describe that feeling that we've all felt when, let's say, you had a bad night's rest. You didn't sleep well. The next day, you're just in a fog, or let's say you have allergies. Now, the people who are dealing with allergies, they know what brain fog is like. They walk around allergy season day in, day out, where they just can't get out of the fog. It's not really due to your allergy medication. It's just the fact that you're just dealing with this fog and this increased inflammation. Maybe if you don't suffer from allergies, we've all experienced a head cold.
Yeah, that kind of feeling,
That
stuffiness.
feeling,
Yeah,
yes.
like you're stuffed. There's something going on in here, and you can't quite
Mhm.
get through it all. It's like it's that feeling, right? Yeah.
Yes, and some people, it usually happens mid-afternoon, that afternoon kind of I can't really. I'm having trouble multitasking. I'm just having trouble kind of getting things started. Maybe you're reading a paper or you're reading a book, you find yourself having to read those lines, those
Yeah.
sentences over. You've
Over and over again, right?
experienced that
Yeah,
where you're reading something, you're like, "Okay, I don't even know what I just
I know.
read."
It's if you've seen people do this, right? They're reading, they underline something, and then they underline it again, and then they underline it again. It's like they're not getting it, right? And
Right,
then
exactly.
you get frustrated, and then it's like, oh, yeah,
Now,
almost
and
like you
you
have to.
in those times, sometimes you just need to take a step away and then come back.
Yeah. So on today's show, we're going to talk about what causes brain fog, or some of the theories right behind
Mhm.
it. We're going to talk about problems with common solutions.
Yes.
And then we're going to talk about targeting brain fog with specific supplements, nutrients, and
Mhm.
there's some good data backing up mango leaf extract and peppermint extract. So stay tuned to
Yes.
learn about that. So let's jump right into what are some of the theories causing brain fog, and let's start with number one because you already mentioned it. It's inflammation in the brain, right?
Right, inflammation in the brain, and what's interesting when you look at the research specifically related to areas in the brain focused on attention. So I thought that not necessary I'm sorry, focused on staying alert, not
Alert. Yeah.
necessarily attention.
Okay.
So when you mentioned earlier kind of that mental fatigue, that's kind of drawing back or circling back to this inflammation in the brain. It's something that I sent you the paper, Dr. Mike, about pandemic brain.
Yeah. Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah.
Very interesting, not necessarily due to having had an infection, but this idea of, or the people who have just been sheltered in, dealing
Yeah.
with the stresses of the pandemic. This is causing inflammation in the brain, and I truly think it relates to me back to gut health. We
Yeah.
know
Very
that
very
gut
interesting.
bugs talk to the brain,
Yep, that's right. That's very good. I like that.
and chronic stress can negatively affect the diversity in the gut,
Right.
which could then lead to, some brain inflammation all over the body, but
Yeah. Well,
specifically inflammation in the brain.
yeah, you end up it becomes a vicious cycle, right? Regardless of where it starts, right? Chronic stress, bad gut microbiome, bad signals to the brain fog, that then
Mhm.
sends bad signals to, and then you're just in this cycle between brain fog and what you might call dysbiosis uh, in
Yes.
in the gut. Hey, what about this? Along with inflammation or related to inflammation, how about poor lymphatic circulation?
You
We've
took
been
my
talking about the lymph system.
Yes, and everyone, last week our show was all about the lymphatic system, so make sure you go back and check out that live show. I think that has something to do with pandemic brain as well.
Yeah.
You're sitting in the house, you're now a couch potato because you can't go out. You're working from home, so you're not moving around as much. The extent of your steps are, getting out of your bed and going to the
Yep. Yep.
desk or the table to work. And so you're not moving and you're not getting proper lymphatic flow, lymphatic drainage,
Right.
clogging up that lymph system in the brain.
Yeah. Yeah. We learned too that the lymph system too can collect a lot of those inflammatory markers, right? And
Yes.
that can lead to more of the inflammation. Let's move on to number two. Again, very interesting to me, histamine and what I guess people call mast cell activation. Tell us about that one.
Yes. Now, your mast cells, I guess we need to explain what those are first.
Yeah.
Those are immune cells, but those cells, they're not like the immune cells that's kind of just floating through the bloodstream. The mast cells tend to reside in your tissues. So they're kind of the resident immune cells. So if there is something going on inside of those tissues, then those mast cells release chemicals, pro-inflammatory chemicals, chemical messengers. Histamine, I would say, is the most popular one. Most people know about histamine, and when histamine is elevated, how that can give you those allergic symptoms, right? If you're dealing with seasonal allergies. So individuals who are dealing with mast cell activation, this is where you're having just an abnormal mast cell response. It's
Mhm.
chronic. You have chronic itching and lots of different kind of symptomology. But a part of that, you do see brain fog
Yeah.
being
Very
involved
interesting.
with that. And more people are dealing with this than I would say. It's not really being diagnosed. It's a new disorder that's being recognized just within the last 10 years.
Yeah, there's more research looking at mast cells, right? And we've come across it. Life Extension looked into this with pain and like pain relief and stuff like that. So the mast cells, I think you're going to see more research and we're going to learn a lot more. The last one, or no, I'm going to say the third one because I think there's one more potential cause. The
Mhm.
third one kind of relates to histamine a little bit. Signaling molecules, messenger molecules like neurotransmitters, right? So there's
Yes.
evidence that there could be some brain chemical imbalance going on here. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and you see that in people who are dealing with attention deficit disorder, not with the hyperactivity, but even like the adult ADD, which is shown to have brain fog involved. And basically what we're going through, all of you who are listening, is kind of what researchers are identifying as underlying causes of brain fog. What could be causing it? And as they kind of look into the research, they're connecting it to neurotransmitter imbalances, because we do know that people with ADHDI, which is the inattentive ADHD, often present with
Hmm,
or complain
interesting.
of having brain fog. So
Yeah, yeah, very interesting, right?
that's
So
leading us
there
in
is
the right
is it
direction.
yeah, so there is some connection there somewhere. I know there's still a lot of research that needs to be done, right, on what's going on here. But one of the things I also wanted to mention, and you said at the get go that there's no real diagnosis for this. We call these, once a disease is established, it gets a diagnosis code. so you could code it, and the insurance companies recognize it, what have you. It's kind of like when a disease gets a code, it's like a big thing. It's like it won something, right? And we don't have a code for brain fog at this time. But one of the things I wanted to mention is a lot of this is going on in the absence of depression, because a lot of people with brain fog will also undergo some tests for depression, and the clinicians are ending up looking at this. Well, they don't seem to be really depressed, but yet they have some of these similar brain symptoms, these brain fog symptoms. So I think a lot more research has to be done. But let's look at the last thing, because this was the one I found really fascinating: food sensitivities, right?
We've
And
talked about it.
specifically celiac disease. Why don't you, that study that we went over? Let's talk about that, because that's really interesting.
Yeah, so there was a study published in the Journal of Clinical Gastroenterology, and they published the results of a survey, and they surveyed over 1,300 individuals, and they found in this survey that 89% of participants in the study with celiac disease and 95% of participants with non-celiac gluten sensitivity reported
Right.
having brain fog. They're actually calling it gluten-induced cognitive impairment.
Yeah. Well,
And
I mean, it kind of, okay. Let's think about it just for a sec, right? So we've already talked about inflammation, right? And
mhm,
and that's probably one of the leading things going on here: inflammation in the brain.
right,
Well, we know that food sensitivities, celiac disease, all of these things cause a rise in chronic inflammation right throughout the body. That's the link going on here. It's probably just driving the inflammation in the brain, resulting in some of those chemical imbalances and what we're calling brain fog.
I believe so, Dr. Mike. I think it's neuroinflammation with a close, I would say neck and neck, the gut dysbiosis.
Add that in there too. I like that as well. Well, and I think this is important. Sometimes in medicine, if there's a bunch of symptoms going on, it's nice to have one cause, one diagnosis. That's always nice and clean. It doesn't
Right.
work like that in real life.
That's
It,
not
it,
no.
yeah. So I think what we're going to end up finding is brain fog is probably multifactorial, right? There's probably a bunch of things kind of going on that's feeding into these symptoms of just fog, loss of mental energy, that kind of stuff. That's
Right.
probably where we're going. So people with brain fog, I know, especially during my allergy season, I'm the allergy person with brain fog.
Okay.
Which is why, and I've told you this before, it's I don't take antihistamines because it just makes it worse for me.
Right. Well, histamine's a neurotransmitter, Dr. Mike. It's actually an excitatory
I know.
neurotransmitter that keeps you awake. So yeah, the antihistamines.
I don't like those. They make me feel worse. I do quercetin during this time of the year, and that
Yeah.
works pretty well. It's an antihistamine too, but not as strong. Right, end of the
Mhm.
day. So
Mhm.
so so I'm in that group. I understand brain fog. I get it. And so yes, I'm gonna drink more coffee.
I was going to ask you that.
I'm gonna drink because I like my espresso shots. So
Right.
I might do an extra double espresso just to kind of keep me going a little bit. It
So what
doesn't
do
work.
you have a cutoff with your caffeine?
Well, when I have heart palpitations. No,
You sound like me. It doesn't take much for me to have the heart palpitations and get all jittery. Dr.
Yeah.
Mike knows when if I've had too
Oh,
much caffeine, he's like, "Oh no."
here we go. Here we go.
So
Yeah. So
yeah,
obviously caffeine not the best choice here, right? I mean,
right. It's not sustainable. And many people who are dealing with brain fog, obviously there's the one day if you didn't sleep well. But many people deal with brain fog day in and day out, all day long. And there comes a point where the caffeine stops working, or you need more and more and more caffeine to kind of get that boost,
yeah,
and then sometimes you overdo it. What happens late afternoon? You can't run for caffeine, right?
yeah.
Because then it's going to start affecting
I
your sleep.
I see. It does. Yeah, I know some people can drink coffee a little bit later in the day and be okay, but not me.
Those are
I guess for me,
mutants,
you
Dr.
asked me
Mike.
what my cutoff is. My cutoff is afternoon. I can't like at
Okay.
about 2 o'clock. No, I need to switch to tea, something else, because it will keep me up, and that's not good because my sinuses are keeping me up as well. So it's like a double whammy, right? So
Yes.
it's just I know it's not the best way to go. And so there has to be, and I'm glad to say that it looks like there are some better choices, right? Some nutrient based choices that can help control some of this without the side effects of too much caffeine, etc.
Right.
So the first one, and I found this really interesting, was mango leaves. Now we're not talking about the pulp of mango, right? We're talking about mango leaves and how they actually target all. I think well the first three,
Mhm.
right, causes of brain fog that we went through.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit
Mhm.
about mango leaves.
Yeah, so mango leaves traditionally have been used to make teas, and those teas have been shown to support fatigue, to support depression. It's usually those young, tender leaves, so not the mature mango leaves, the ones that are we're talking about the ones that are more purplish in color, but traditionally used as a tea. You can buy the mango leaf teas in South Florida, they're all over the place, so we can make our own tea. But what researchers are seeing is a specific constituent in the tea called mangoferin, and extracts of mango leaves standardized to 60% of mangoferin have been researched to support really the brain fog that is targeting those three key areas. It's targeting the neurotransmitter imbalances, it's targeting neuroinflammation, it's as well as targeting histamine. So researchers are saying, hey, this may be something to worth considering
Yeah.
to
It,
help to support, an awake brain.
an awake brain. I like that. But now, of course, when we talk about standardization and stuff, right? 60% standardized. What that basically means is supplementation is what's key here, right? You're not. I don't know
Yeah,
how much mangiferin in one glass of tea. How much? I mean, I don't know how many glasses of tea you'd have to drink to get to
right.
reach that level that actually has the clinical efficacy. So food first. And Dr. Crystal is a doctor of clinical nutrition. She's big on that, right? Food first.
Absolutely.
Drink the tea, go for it. See, but you're not going to reach that clinical effect. And
Exactly.
yeah. So that's where supplementation is key.
Yeah, and when you look at using something, I guess therapeutically, right? Then you kind of have to look at the research, and in research, 30 milligrams improved attention in as early as 30 minutes. So that's something else that I really like about the mango
Yeah.
leaf extract is how quickly it
That's
will
fast.
work.
You don't
Yeah.
usually see that, right? Would that then now it gets a little confusing. Could we then classify this as a nootropic, like a quick acting brain enhancement thing?
Yes, Dr. Mike, look at you.
Right. That's
Yes.
a nootropic.
Yes, and, there were even greater improvements up until even at the 3-hour mark. So that's something else that's great because when you look at something like caffeine, you get that quick thinking power, but then you crash and it goes away, right?
Yeah.
So with the mango leaf, you're seeing within 3 hours there was significant improvement in working memory, and you know what we like to call that, Dr. Mike?
The post-its notes of the brain or something like that, right? Isn't that what you call
Exactly.
it?
That's the post-it note of the brain. So anytime you see research showing that something is improving working memory, it is helping you to kind of hold on to those memories. That's kind of
Yeah.
like to think of, and gives your brain a chance to be able to move some
Moves
of those memories
into
into
long term.
long-term memory.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. So that's mango leaf extract. Very simple. You could also drink. Have you had the tea before? Have you
I
tried it?
had well, you, Dr. Mike, you
And
know who you're talking
did.
to.
Well, now I don't know. I mean, the minute I hear something like mango leaves, you might think, well, maybe it's a little sweet. but most of these teas tend to be pretty bitter. What was your experience?
Pretty yes, I would agree, and, but, I always doctor on my tea. I always put cinnamon as my go-to or
Okay,
some
well,
type
so
of
then you don't know.
allspice.
Then you don't know.
Oh, I really don't know.
Well, that's really interesting. So that's mango leaf extract. Really good research there. Another one was peppermint oil, right?
Yes.
I mean, right there, I think people hear peppermint and they automatically like the smell, how it kind of wakes you up a little bit. Like right there, they're already like, yeah, I see how this might work,
Oh,
right?
yes.
So am I smelling it or am I taking it as a supplement or a food source?
Well, both. So it really we're looking at a peppermint oil for yes for mental energy, Dr. Mike. Peppermint, the smell of peppermint is very stimulating, as well as um, the menthol in that peppermint tea has been shown to mentally stimulate. We know what's happening
Yeah,
in the brain. We know that it's helping to improve neurotransmitters such as acetylcholine. That is your I call that the memory neurotransmitter in the brain. Those are those brain chemicals, the
yeah.
neurotransmitters.
Helping
Um,
that imbalance, right? That
ex
was one of the leading theories of what's going on here, right?
right, exactly. So helping your attention, helping your memory with the supporting acetylcholine, as well as GABA, which is a calming neurotransmitter. Now, when you think about that, sometimes that could seem a little counterintuitive, right?
I know where you're going with this stuff. I know where you're going with this.
You would think, okay, GABA is going to make me kind of drowsy or make me lethargic because it's my calming neurotransmitter, but it gives you the calm focus.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get so amped that like we can't even the clarity of our thoughts is not
Yeah.
there. Like
Well,
we are attentive, but then we can't put things together.
I think you could also make the argument here, and again, more research is needed. It's brain fog, multifactorial, a lot of things going on. Sometimes when the brain is overexcited, there's certain neurotransmitters that drive thought, drive memory, drive activity, right? And at some point, the brain almost kind of like starts to fizz out. It's short circuits, and that's maybe where some of that brain fog comes in. So to
Yeah.
use something like the fact that GABA can work and help us get rid of the brain fog tells me that maybe we need to actually calm things down
Yes.
a little
Yes.
bit in the brain.
And
And
just like the mango leaf, where we're looking at the research showing a standardized amount of the active component, you see that as well with peppermint oil. So
that's very
we're
good.
not, it's not the same as just getting, some drops of the essential peppermint oil and putting it in your tea, which I've done that more times than I can count. But we're looking at something a standardized 60% monoterpenes, and menthol is a type of monoterpene. So we're talking about the active component in this peppermint oil, just kind of concentrating, giving you a
Right.
concentrated amount of that. And that's what's been shown to be beneficial in research for
Yeah.
brain support.
So peppermint candy won't work.
No,
You can't at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Dr. Crystal. You don't start buying peppermint candy.
I don't know. That sounds like a good idea.
Let's not do that. Another one, or the last one we were going to talk about, is spearmint, kind of related a little bit to the peppermint oil.
Hmm.
Spearmint. I've always loved spearmint gum, and I always felt like I got a little bump just from chewing spearmint gum. Now I know it's not. I know we got more research, and that this is not that same kind of
Right.
spearmint, but I don't know. I like spearmint. It always makes me feel good when I like chewing gum.
Yeah, well, spearmint also has those monoterpenes similar to the peppermint, similar to sage, similar to rosemary. So those are some other nutrients that can be beneficial for brain health and cognitive function. And we know that there's research, or actually a 900 milligram dose of spearmint extract um, performed the participants performed better on memory tests with that dose. And it is dose dependent because in that one study I just mentioned with 900 milligrams, they compared it to 600 milligrams. So there was like kind of a
Okay.
dose comparison. And so you do see that dosing standardization matters when it
Matters what?
comes
So in
to
that
kind of
case, the 900, I mean, the 600 had some efficacy, but the 900 is where it maxed out. That's where you got your max
right,
benefit. Yeah,
exactly.
the 900. Well, what a great topic, mental fog, brain fog. If you're somebody out there that's kind of watching this going, that's me. I kind of feel that way. I feel a little mentally drained. My thoughts are fuzzy. I can't quite multitask maybe like I used to. I do think number one, you should talk to your doctor. Make sure it's not depression. I mean, that's important. Depression does kind of come along with some of those symptoms, but for a lot of people, it's not depression, but they still have just that sluggishness. It's that word, sluggishness,
Yeah.
in the brain. And if that sounds like you, there are some things you can do. Try the mango leaf extract, the peppermint oil, the spearmint. There are things that can help to reverse what we think are some of the causes of brain fog, like the imbalances in neurotransmitters, the inflammation. We even talked about some food sensitivities as well. So, listen, I get it. I don't know, Dr. Crystal. I don't think you really suffer from brain fog too much, but
No, not. And when I said I understood at the very beginning, I it was a little bit after I had my both kids. It's like that brain fog
okay,
after
you got it
having a
then. You got
baby.
that post pog. So I can see that. But if you know Dr. Crystal, she's not. She's singing and bouncing around all the time. So I don't know if she's experienced, but I have. I get it. Check out some of those nutrients. We have an article, right?
Yes. If you head to lifeextension.com/brain fog, there is an article hot off the press from our April 2022 magazine,
Yeah.
and it highlights brain fog.
Right. Now, people might be going, wait, it's March. How's April? Our magazines are a little ahead, right? The
Yes.
Life Extension magazines. So that's lifeextension.com/brain fog to learn more about the nutrients, look more into the research. Dr. Crystal, thanks for joining me today. Fantastic job.
Thank you, Dr. Mike.
Thank you for everyone for tuning in. Don't forget, we go live every Wednesday. Like these shows, comment. We love to hear from you. Go ahead and share. That's really important to us as well. And don't forget, next Wednesday, 3 p.m., we'll be right here. I'm Dr. Mike. Thanks for watching.